Hi, welcome to Podlygamists, the Sisterwives rewatch podcast.
Sisterwives is a reality show centered on a Mormon polygamist family originating in Lehi, Utah. Over 12 years and 16 seasons, TLC's longest-running reality show tells the story of Cody Brown and his 4 wives, Mary, Janelle, Christine, and Robyn, and their journey as spouses and parents living plural marriage in the public eye. As superfans, we have watched the family as they grow and overcome challenges, endure numerous moves, face loss, and celebrate all the moments in between. We love the Brown family, and fresh off some major changes following season 16, we decided to go back to the beginning and embark on the ultimate rewatch so that we could see the early days with fresh eyes and try to draw connections between the Brown family of 2010 and where we are today. I'm Samantha Kaiser.
And I'm Haley Graff.
And this is Podlygamists, Season 1, Episode 6.
All right. Welcome back, everybody. Thank you so much for sticking with us. Today we're covering Episode 6, which is titled A Fourth Wife to Be. It aired originally on October 17th, 2010. And the description that TLC has provided for us is, as the wedding nears, the 3 wives help fiancée Robyn pick a wedding dress, a cake, and a venue for their unique polygamous wedding reception. Meanwhile, it's Janelle's birthday, and Cody has a special trip planned.
I don't recall that.
Didn't catch that.
Did they cut that out of the episode? Because I don't remember that.
I'm a little baffled. Because then, if we look forward, it looks like the next wedding episode is the
wedding.
Then there's a special, and then there's another special.
So we just completely cut out Janelle's birthday.
But yet they kept it in the script description?
Well, how weird is that? TLC, if you would like to comment on this.
Yeah.
We have questions.
Let us know what you were thinking 12 years ago when you wrote this. Were you
initially planning a longer episode, maybe? And then they were like, nah.
And then they were like,
Janelle's birthday footage in here.
Well, they've all been 21 minutes long.
Right.
So like to the T. So I wonder... Yeah. Wow. I would have liked to have seen that.
I would have liked to have seen that too. I like anything with Janelle, especially if it's a birthday thing, something fun for just her. We haven't had like just her time really yet this season, so
the lost footage.
Well, damn.
Well, I've got a mission to investigate now.
It's got to be out there somewhere. I bet they recorded it. So if TLC would like to reach out, explain, and maybe send us some footage so we can recap it.
Yeah.
As if TLC knows about us yet.
This is my Atlantis now, I think.
Right.
Well, I guess we kind of get right into it with this. This is a very it's another one where it's a very like focused episode. You know, there's not a lot of like side plots going on. It's like very pretty much focused on preparations for Robyn's wedding.
Right. After her quote, long courtship and long engagement.
And a really long engagement, she said. So I was curious, like, how long was the engagement?
Because in my head, they've known each other for like 6 months at this point. I could be wrong, obviously, but I'm like, yep, it's so long.
Yeah, that was a funny. It was a very different vibe this episode, I felt.
It totally was. I was a little, I don't know if I want to say uncomfortable watching it. It felt like you were watching real behind the scenes family drama in this episode.
And like problems, it's so funny the like revisionist history I have of this family, because to me, seeing the problems that are happening now, I was like, man, I remember when it was all like good and this was that they used to go so well and like everything went so smoothly and I'm like, no, they didn't. I'm looking back now. I'm like, no, this.
Like, I thought this would be the time that was like the honeymoon period, but no, there were problems the entire time.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. It's for sure like eye opening.
It really is. Like, it does make me rethink the last 12 years of watching this.
For sure, I'm questioning everything, and now I just need to keep watching. Yeah. Like, it's hard not to keep watching for the sake of the show. I mean, we're preserving the conversation and like the freshness. I get it, but I'm like, man, what happens next? And the season's wrapping up. So, yeah, that was the first thing I had written down was Robyn's commentary on their very long engagement and very long courtship. And I'm just like thinking, I know they commented on how that was a long courtship for polygamists, but I'm like, man, I feel like an average engagement is like a year, maybe.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's longer, especially during COVID times. It's been like many years for some people.
Right?
And if you get engaged to someone within a year of knowing them now, I feel like people are like, whoa, that's a little quick. I
Yeah.
that's what I've always thought. I don't know.
I've thought that too. Like, I think my parents got engaged, I think within like 10 months of knowing each other.
That's
And I
quick.
was like, shit, guys, all right.
I mean, that's worked out, but that means
I mean, yeah, that one worked out fine, I guess. They're still together, but it just still feels like not good for you, not for me. Like,
I mean,
I wouldn't
again,
be that sure after that short of time.
Robyn and Cody are like still going fine, so whatever.
Yeah, apparently
Um,
for them it's fine. So
um, this the following conversation was like I thought was fascinating. The There's immediately conflict on like the confessional couch that we're like filming. The family all stand together on the confessional like this, so it's like not live in person happening. It's like they're kind of interviewing after the fact, talking about how Cody is currently spending a full rotation with Robyn, meaning like right now their schedule for Cody with each wife is a day. So they're every third day they would see Cody again, each wife. And now currently as the fiance only, Robyn has a full day in the rotation, and I went back and forth a lot about how I felt about that.
I wrote a note. I was like, Haley, what do you think about this? Because I have lots of thoughts.
I go both ways. I get where they're like, I don't like it. I get that. And they each kind of had a different take, which I tried to jot down. Mary and Christine aren't into it, and Janelle's shocker feels like it makes sense.
She's
Because,
chill. I mean, she's
yeah,
so chill. Like,
right.
she's like, whatever. A fiance is basically the same as a wife at this point, so why shouldn't she have equal time?
And I feel it because she did. Okay, at first I was like, this feels like if you're gonna get married so quickly, just wait. That's kind of what I was thinking. I was like, we're already like, well, like what's he spending? Isn't I mean, what's he spending the time with her doing? Just hanging out because like,
I
because
don't know if
isn't
they have like overnight time yet, you know?
that's what I'm wondering. That's what I'm wondering.
Because I think that's not like
Because you think that'd be
proper.
inappropriate for their culture
Yeah.
and
So I
for
mean, he's not like spending the night at Robyn's house. I mean, if he is, he's maybe on the couch, but
I mean, who's there to monitor?
I
Whatever.
guess
I mean,
we don't know. I guess we don't know if he's,
yeah. And I
but
personally don't like. It's not like I care, but like just based
yeah.
on there was a lot of talk about that engagement kiss and like all this stuff, and I'm just like,
And him holding hands with a woman
yeah,
who's not his wife. So I mean, like it's much more significant if he's like having sex with Robyn before
yeah,
marriage than it is for maybe an average couple.
right.
So
Which is why I'm surprised which is why I understand why Mary and Christina are like, what's the deal here? Because like it just seems, and this is something I struggle with in my own like personal like following of rules because I'm again a Christian
mhm.
is like what part of this is arbitrary and what part of it is not. Because like if we pull that thread and we're like, oh, he can stay the night but sleep on the couch, he can kiss her but not. But okay, so it's like at what point? Oh, hi, buddy, my dog. At what point? At what point are we like, this is no longer at all resembling what we're claiming?
Well, because you can't just pick and choose what things to follow, though. If you're gonna
That's
like,
kind of how it feels. Like
you
it's a really
know,
loose parameter for a religion that's supposedly very like conservative and like traditional. If
and if
that's
you're gonna have such a conviction, though, that you're gonna be like, God called me to marry multiple women for my religion. Okay, great, but then I kind of expect you then to be that convicted in like all areas.
yeah, right, all or nothing. Like be upstanding, especially in front of when you have these witnesses. These women are all witnessing it, so like that's kind of
Right.
the accountability piece. I think Janelle calls on that a lot for like as far as why she values polygamy is like the accountability. I
Yeah.
feel like that's something she's talked about. Like,
Mhm.
yeah, these women know whether or not you're being accountable to like your what you claim you believe. So like,
And if they're expected to be,
yeah, right.
it's a two-way street. So
going back to that conversation with Mary at dinner for their anniversary, like how vile, or what was the word? He used a very strong word for like how to.
vulgar.
Yes, vulgar it would be for her to be giving attention to another man, like, and yet the fiance gets a night in the rotation. I don't know
Yeah.
but then when they talked about how she moved all the way out here, like, okay, I guess she's lonely and like her kids, and she needs some support and connection to the family. But also, like, why did she need to move all the way out there? Could they not have courted long distance for until the wedding? Like, there's just so many. It's such a weird. It's a weird cherry picking of like what rules we're abiding by and like what we, you know.
Yeah. Well, that's why too when again with like the kiss thing where it was a huge deal that they sealed the engagement with a kiss, but then all of a sudden like he's off, like he kisses her all the time now. And so it's just like, okay, well that wasn't a huge deal, so let's forget about it.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting.
It confuses me. I just want to like I want to know
Yeah.
what's the deal. Which is it?
The interesting thing that I'm like reflecting on now, because hey, Pastor Jake and Michelle, if you're out there listening, my my pastors from the church I attend like have spent a lot of time in Utah. They're very like familiar with Mormon culture, and especially Pastor Jake. And I kind of had just last night was discussing this, like, just because he just the basics of like Joseph Smith, why there's polygamy, why like these tenets that they have, like that kind of stuff. And it was real Cliff Notes quick because we were not there to discuss that. It just came up,
Yeah.
and he was talking about how like from his perspective, and again he's a Christian pastor, and he doesn't love that he doesn't agree with Mormons kind of considering themselves Christian and being like Christian, because like there's some very fundamental pieces of Mormonism that is not aligned with like the fundamentals of Christianity. So
Okay.
that's another discussion for another day probably. But he
I would
talked
love to. I would love to have that discussion.
for sure. Oh yeah, I know we're gonna have
Bonus episode again.
a bonus episode. Um, but the thing he talked about, and this is again a perspective of a Christian pastor.
Mm-hmm.
Um, he's saying that like essentially Joseph Smith is like this prophet of the Mormons. Like he's kind of like the main dude that they rely on for their tenets and their rules, and so the founder of this religion was basically like he had a hard time being faithful, and he was frequently before this was a tenet. It was a frequent like thing of sleeping around, and like then he had to
Hmm.
justify by claiming these like he was spoken to like this is a tenet. This he saw a vision, or not a vision, but like a he God like talked to him, and like now we should have multiple wives and it's righteous. So that being
Yeah.
said, I can't help but see if that is the real. And like again, I'm learning still about Mormonism and polygamy and the faith. I can't help but see like a reflection in like Cody's justification of Robyn a little bit in that way, where it's like not that he has trouble being. I define I'm towing a line, but it's interesting because like he is so in this honeymoon teen love phase with Robyn, and I feel that he's blurring a lot of lines. It seems like, and the wives seem to feel that way too, that he's blurring a lot of lines of
Mm-hmm.
what their rules are and what their like
And
conviction
what has largely
for
seemed
Robyn.
like he's followed with the previous three, like with Mary, Janelle, and Christine. It seems like they've had a kind of more, at least as much as possible, universal experience of adding a new wife in and what it was like. And it seems like it is deviating from that with Robyn.
I'm just like, man, there are different standards here. That's what it comes down to. That's the word phrase that I've been trying to find, is that there's just different standards for this relationship. It seems like than there
Mm-hmm.
were. And again, we weren't there for this part of the other relationship, so like maybe I'm mistaken, but interesting, just interesting. We spent a lot of time on that piece, but the wives are not happy with it. Mary and Christine are unhappy about it, and I understand why. And I understand Janelle's logistics of like, what's the difference at this point? But the thing is, if we follow that thread of like, what's the difference? There's a lot of things that would come apart if we looked at a lot of things that way in
I
their
think so too. I
right.
think for Janelle, I mean, like she is just pretty like even keel anyways. I mean, maybe for her it's just not worth getting upset about. She's like, because she's gonna be part of the family anyway. What's the difference if it's a month before the wedding or whatever? Who cares? We're already bringing her into the family. Who cares? But I can see though Christine and Mary being like, but it's not the same yet, though. It's not. You've had 20 years of commitment to us. Why should you all of a sudden, before you're married to this lady, give her equal time?
And your 13
And,
other kids. Like,
well, exactly. And, Robyn's whole argument is that she's like, well, I moved here. I uprooted my life to move here, and I needed that time to get to know Cody. I needed that time for my kids to get to know him and all that. And I'm like, yes, all of that's important. But at the same time, I think you have to be a little more understanding that, like, you're not going to get as much time dating a man who's married to 3 women as you would dating a single man, okay? Like, that's just the reality of it.
and you can't help but wonder if Robyn were in the situation now. Like, if he now brought in a fifth wife. Like,
I
how...
can't imagine it now.
It's not going to happen. I have no part of me is, like,
No,
ready for that fifth wife. And I think Cody is done with it, too.
I think he is, too.
And I think Cody's pretty content with Robyn. But I can't help but wonder if the same standards were put on a fifth wife now, what that would look like for Robyn and how she might reflect on that differently. But
I really don't think she would. I don't think she would respond to it well, to be
I
honest.
don't either. And she's the most convicted in the family, like, religiously, and, like, speaks the most, like, to current day. I think she's the most faithful person in her heart and, like, the way she speaks. So, yeah. Anyways, we can move on. But that was super, dove right into that very, like, intense and interesting.
I mean, it just happened right away, and you're like, oh, okay, we didn't even settle into the episode yet, and we're already, like, having this kind of tiff between, I mean, it was sort of like the first time we see them disagreeing and sort of, like, simmering a little bit of something more that they could maybe unleash more arguments. So that was a little intense way to start the episode.
Yeah, for sure.
But we did get to see some more popsicle eating in the yard, though. Did you catch that?
No, I missed it. What was I doing? I didn't catch
Well, they were showing, like, Robyn and Cody hanging out with her kids, and they're, of course, out in the yard eating popsicles because that's just what they do, I guess.
Well, we didn't get to see Robyn and her kids eating popsicles yet because they weren't in the pilot episode. So, I guess we had.
They got their time in the sun to eat the popsicles.
Oh, man, I didn't catch that.
I wrote all caps. I wrote more popsicles.
More yard popsicles.
Yard popsicles.
That's funny. We get a cute little roundup of all the wives to go shopping for Robyn, for her flowers and such. I think this must have been different days, multiple days, it seems like, but they kind of made it seem like it was one big day of, like, shopping and picking out things for Robyn's wedding.
Well, at the flower shop, like, the lady, they always have them asking, like, how are you guys know each other or whatever. But then she's like, are you sisters or are you the moms? And I was like, moms? Like, I'm like, she's not that much younger than them, lady. Ouch. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah. I know. I feel like some of them could have been like, noted lady. Thanks. Noted flower lady.
No, I'm not her mom. I'm 7 years older than her. What are you doing?
And maybe that's why we get such a reaction from Christine. I don't know if you caught this, too. She had a lot of feelings. Robyn's kind of suggesting they all get their unique bouquet that, like, is the kind of flowers that they like, and they all seem receptive to that. And Cody and Christine has a big, like, she's like, I don't want just very anti-bouquet. She wants a corsage. She's going to be holding Truly. What? All of the wedding you're going to be holding Truly? Like,
the entire time? Like, you don't have, like, a stroller?
At the altar? Like, I'm just like, what? I don't know what their wedding's gonna look like. I guess if you line up the way we imagine bridesmaids and groomsmen line up,
right,
with their flowers, she's gonna just be, like, holding Truly. Like,
maybe Truly, just...
Like, I get that, I mean, she's a newborn, she's a little baby, but it was just a really weird, intense moment, like a little snap out of Christine, like...
And then Robyn's like, oh, you do whatever. Like, it's fine.
Yeah, please wear a corsage. I'm like, corsage, okay, weird.
Like, all right, whatever you want, Christine, it's fine.
She seems, she's touchy about it.
Yeah, and I don't blame her.
Right. But we also reveal that they're wearing brown. Big brown dresses. I was just like, what? Why are we? I'm sorry. Like, I know I'm not, like, I'm not trying to, like, this is a different time in fashion. I know brown and pink and, like, brown and purple was, like, kind of like a combo people were wearing then, but, like, a big brown ball gown sounds like a nightmare. And
yeah, what a choice. And then the lady, too, was like, oh, you're wearing brown, and then, like, Christine must have been sensitive about it because she's like, "Are you saying boring brown?"
Yeah.
She's like, "No, I said you were wearing brown. Settle down, lady."
Yeah. She had a real reaction to that too. And I also wrote down, "We're wearing brown." Is that like a pun?
Is that like a pun?
My notes, like the Browns wearing brown. I don't
The
know.
Browns,
Um,
literally.
and then we transitioned to cake testing, which
Did you
Cody
catch the name of the cakery?
didn't. Damn it! Did you catch
It
it?
was freaking weird. I wrote it down. Flour dough, girls and boys.
Is that like a pun?
I was trying to figure it out. I was like, "The hell is this?"
Flower dough, girls and boys.
Yeah. I mean,
What?
there's no more like commentary on that. I just was like, "What the hell is this name, though?"
Did you look it up at all? I'm curious now.
You should Google it and be like, "Why is it called that? And
So,
is it still in business?"
I mean, and with that plug from TLC Sisterwives, you gotta imagine
Right.
they
I had to boost in business for a little while.
can show
Oh, we got it?
permanently closed. Unfortunately, can't be ordering
Okay.
flower girls and doughboys. Oh, flower girls and doughboys.
Oh, okay, so I read the title like an idiot.
I will say the lady doing the testing didn't seem like pumped to be there. She
I
seemed
was
like
I literally wrote, I was like, how awkward is this for her?
when they're like doing the blind vote, the blind taste test. She goes, "So you want me to? I'm gonna tally this down." And then there's a table full of adults closing their eyes and raising their hands. It's just like, and then Cody, and yeah, and then Robyn, pick my cake, Robyn, pick the one.
Please, Robyn.
I was just like, man, this lady's gonna be like, what
Like, why was I working today? Oh my god.
There's cameras in her face. She's just like, so you want me to?
What a trooper. Shout out to that girl, whoever you are. Way to try.
Hey, I'm envious of you. I would have loved to have been you on that day counting blind.
She was like maybe like 20 or something. So she's just kind of young.
Yeah, she was young and she was not amused.
Like, this is my day.
Yeah, I mean, I'll take it. Yeah, there was a lot of like wild kind of cake flavors. I feel like you go to a wedding, you're not getting like almond whatever cake or like usually even a fruit filling seems like a bold choice. Usually it's pretty simple.
You try to pick something that everybody's gonna like universally. Chocolate or vanilla, pretty much.
Maybe like a red velvet. I don't know. Usually it's pretty simple, but they were going pretty wild with it.
Right.
And basically, there's not that much to say other than listing a bunch of flavors. But Cody does say at the end, "I got the cake I wanted for my wedding." And I was like, "That's nice. You've had several weddings now, so like, I'm so happy you got the cake you wanted for your wedding."
Right.
I would maybe try to give the cake my other wives wanted, but
you'd think.
Okay.
But okay, Cody, whatever. And they're all kind of giving Robyn some shit about voting for the same cake as him, and they're like, "You of course did it because Cody wanted you to."
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, maybe read it in slightly because she did actually have her eyes closed and she did have her hand in the air before she knew Cody was saying it. So,
well, Cody was yelling. I mean, Cody made it very clear. But also, I trust Robyn's integrity to keep her eyes closed for a vote. I guess I'll say that.
I mean, from what I saw, she had her hand in the air and he had his hand in the air at the same time, and then he started spouting off the pick mine. So, I think the integrity of the vote was intact. If that at all matters.
Albeit annoying. Yeah. Albeit annoying.
Right. So, whatever. As long as they both enjoyed the cake for their wedding, that's all that really matters. So, we go to the reception place, I think, next. Like, trying to look for a reception menu.
That's right, because I wrote down that Robyn's trying to please Janelle, and I thought that was sweet. And it's because Janelle's really into this reception venue. After a lot of feedback about how she does not care for receptions. But she likes
a lot of feedback. She's got strong opinions about reception. She's like, what? You sit at a table and they give you food, and then you just, like, go home?
Like a restaurant? Like any meal experience? Like
yeah, does she like hate that too?
Yeah, I don't know. I thought that was kind of funny.
But I mean, and this is something. So they're having a pretty big reception because they're saying 200 people that they're gonna have it there for, and So then it gets into an interesting conversation of Christine being like, hey, I didn't have this when I joined the family. I had a small family dinner. And she's like, and I felt like it was because I was coming in as the third wife and I didn't need to have this big wedding. And I felt like that was pretty respectful of her, to be honest, to be like, I'm adding to the family, but it's not like I need to have this Cinderella wedding or something as a third wife. And Janelle, we see, didn't have one either.
But we know Janelle hates receptions, so maybe that was a personal choice.
So yeah, I mean, maybe either way she would have.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. Is what's the norm? You know?
I was curious about what's normal, but I know they're big celebrators. So I was like, it made sense to me that they would have a reception, but when all the wives say that they had not, I go back and forth because like, okay, this was also pre-kids, so maybe they weren't in their big celebration mode yet because that's how they've kind of become. They really prioritize all the birthdays and parties. Maybe before they like weren't big into parties like that sounds silly, but like as conservative religious people, like I know a lot of faiths. That's something that they like don't do is like
And to maybe kind of being more secretive too.
that too.
That maybe that was a reason for not having.
We're on a TV show now. Like maybe
Yes,
TV.
I mean it's out there. So.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. I thought that was interesting, but also it's funny that you thought that Christine's reaction was like her trying to be her being respectful, and like while I understand like maybe at that time it was a respectful decision she decided to make to like. I go back and forth. I feel like she shouldn't have to not have a reception because like she's getting married and like it is her wedding, so like I don't see why it's disrespectful. You're already marrying this guy.
I think just in Christine's point of view though, because she didn't kiss Cody until the wedding. I think it was that kind of line of thinking for her the whole way through, like not wanting to be obtrusive or make more of a big deal about her before she was like really officially in the family.
But I kind of felt like maybe it was a bit of a slight at Robyn, and it's funny because I wrote down on here, is Christine trying to slight Rob? And I was like, what does this mean? Until you started talking about how Christine said that, and I was like, oh yeah, that's right. Rob is Robyn, of course.
She might have been throwing a little bit of shade there.
Just like I thought it was disrespectful, so I didn't do it.
Mm-hmm.
Like
looking at you, Robyn.
Yeah. Like that's just how I feel. I don't know about you. Like this kind of thing.
Yeah.
And maybe I wouldn't have felt that way if we didn't start off with that like big intense like conversation about the Cody already rotation. Right. So I don't know. That was my kind of take, but also I could have been a little biased just because the tone of the episode was very much that.
Yeah, I feel like it could, if it had a different tone of just everybody being like really excited and not like bickering, maybe it would have felt a little different to be like, yeah, great, she's having this nice wedding, like they can maybe afford a better venue and I mean they're in a different place financially, maybe they can have a celebration. Now they've got all these kids that can join them and be a real part of it. Mm-hmm. You'd maybe just think of it more like that.
It just casts such a light on current day. Like I don't know what I was thinking. Maybe I didn't watch these episodes like as consistently back early on. Maybe I missed a bunch of these. I don't know, but like none of this is ringing a bell for me. It feels like I'm watching it for the first time. Also, the thing that just occurred to me when you talked about the kids, there's a chance this big reception is for Robyn's kids as much as it's for Robyn. I could see it that way, where like we are so excited to welcome you kids into the family, and like we want to make you feel special and make Robyn feel special, and like it's gotta be an awkward integration to be these three kids joining this very big established family. So I'm like maybe my like more like generous side of saying it could be bigger because these kids are a part of the picture and they want to.
That's more of a family.
So then I think we go dress shopping, right?
That's what I have next.
We're going to get into a little bit of interesting water, but the thing I thought was interesting and a little bit lighter was I think it's funny and, like, I appreciate that the Browns kind of give people a hard time. When they're feeling a little more, like, goofy, they give people a hard time about who they are and what their relationship is. Like when people get nosy about, like, oh, and you are your sister? They do that thing. And they're like, yeah, kind of, like, and Mary kind of makes a comment of, like, yeah, sometimes it's fun to, like, kind of give people a hard time or tease people about, like, our relationship and, like, not tell them, but, like, just make them a little uncomfortable. Like, I thought that was kind of something maybe I would do when she kind of makes a comment of like, "Oh, we share more than you know," or something like that. And then Robyn makes the comment that, "Well, for all I know, Cody could be our gay best friend," and I appreciated that a little bit. It was a little humbling for Cody, like from probably his perspective, which I was like, yeah.
And it was kind of nice too, because it's like we will see a lot of moments where they sort of like are ribbing him a little bit, like gang up a little bit, and I mean that's like the lead. Like he should expect that. Like they all have to share him. Like he should at least expect to get ganged up on a bit, like and teased in that way.
For sure, they gotta take the power back here and there.
Yeah.
So they don't want to look like bridesmaids, but they don't want to look like mothers of the bride. Somewhere in between, and I'm just kind of like picturing like that's still probably mother of the bride in reality, like the vibe. You know what I mean? Like I don't know how much of their in between that there really is, especially when you're a conservative.
And dresser. I was just kind of like, I know they're not bridesmaids, but what's the big deal if they look like it though?
Yeah, or like matron of honor, like still something that's like a little more classed up and like not so young maybe. So I have a lot of commentary about the dresses. I was like, man, this is a tough time in fashion, period. Like this is 2010. We're coming off early 2000s still, but not to the point where it's like now come back. We're still like in that phase of like Hannah Montana is still the vibe, and like you see that in a lot of the wives' dresses and outfits that they wear on their daily lives. Man, these dresses they're a little rough.
Yeah, we're not gonna look back on that as being like a golden era of fashion.
And they're brown. They're brown. Like why do we choose brown? But whatever. I mean, they do a cute fashion show. Robyn tries on some dresses. I feel like she does go with something with some 3/4 sleeves, if I recall the wedding photo. But she doesn't pick one of the dresses that they saw that day. And she kind of says that she didn't find she's liked a lot of dresses, but she didn't find the one. And then we get a bit of a reveal that Cody thinks is so funny or fun, or I don't know what he was thinking. But in the confession, Cody says, "I got a big bomb to drop." And I was thinking it'd be something a little more dramatic, to be honest, but the reaction made me feel like, oh, this was a pretty like douchey move. He says, "I picked the dress." And he reveals that they went on their own shopping trip and Robyn picked her dress then. And the wives' faces at this time, they're really hurt. They're you can tell they're finding this out for the first time on the confession couch, like in front of the cameras. What did you think?
That was, I wrote, they are ... not pleased, which is putting it lightly. I felt like I wrote down everything that they said too. Like Christine was saying, like you cared at all what I wore to our wedding, and that really hurt. I was like, oof, because we already know Christine's having more issues with this than the others, so that kind of sucked. And Mary said it was a slap in the face. And Janelle, I love Janelle's reaction, which is like, I wasn't really emotionally involved with any of the dresses, but it's just weird.
It's fair.
I laughed out loud hearing her say that. I'm like, yeah. They were pretty hurt by it.
They were, and like understandably, because like, why did you? And then I think it was Christine. Christine had the most to say like out loud, I think, but they're all even Janelle's face was like, oh, like just kind of like your feelings are hurt and like a little bit of in a weird way that's like hard to articulate why and how, but like it's just like, oh, you went behind our backs and like did this thing that was supposed to be a special moment for us, and then it sounded like this was before Robyn had gone shopping with the ladies. With the wives, right? Is that what you gathered?
Yeah, and because she kept just being like real cagey about it, being like, "Oh, I've picked the dress. It's a secret," and then they're like, "What? I mean, like, which one was it that we saw? Or like, what?
Yeah.
And
I want to know the story behind that. Like, was it after the fact that she was like, "I just want to try this on again. I want one that you'll like." Not great, but like redeemable. But I got the impression it was they went before this big shopping trip, and she was putting on a show for them the whole time.
Which that would if that's the case, would totally feel like, why did you like lie about this the whole thing?
It's
Like
just gross. It's just
like
icky and
that's not
gross.
classy.
Oh, and like Christine said, like when is the groom ever involved in picking the dress? And while it's like that's only by tradition, like it's only because of a arbitrary tradition that we have, but like it was a special like you gotta she does have to prioritize bonding and these experiences with the wives, and she could have very well picked a dress with them 50% just because it was something that they would be happy about and that they were like could feel involved in like her choice, and I don't know, and like
I mean, because her and Cody's relationship is not the only relationship that she's entering into with joining the family. Like, her relationship with the wives is still important. So it's like, you still do need to foster those relationships too, and to do the things that you need to do to bond and everything. And, like, traditionally speaking, sure, I mean, people can make their own choice if they want to do, like, the reveal of the dress or whatever when they get married, or, you know, keep the husband in the dark. Up to you.
yeah.
But traditionally, a lot of times it is something that like the bride does with female relatives and friends and stuff, is kind of a
Yeah.
bonding thing.
Mm-hmm.
So just for them to be like, okay, that didn't matter, anything that we were doing together, none of that mattered, I didn't pick a dress, I just went with Cody and actually just did what I wanted. I don't know, just
And
felt a little
for me, the hardest I was trying to if I was like in that position, you feel kind of dumb because you feel like you were believing this weird lie that she was just like pulling over on you the whole time, like that. I was
yes.
trying to like feel like a little bit like even though it's so petty and like not like life impacting, it's just like oh I went along with this stupid like lie that you were telling me for so long. For this whole,
Yeah.
you're trying on dresses and pretending to think it over, like, oh, like that whole
Like,
thing.
I really value your opinion, please, you know,
Yeah,
as I'm like, no you don't. Like,
yeah. You meet
clearly.
with your husband and picked one out privately, which is like just something. I think it's because that's so intimate and like he had to be like, I like this one on you and like all this stuff, like. You know what I mean? And that like skeeves me out to say, but maybe I think that's kind of it. It's just like it's such an intimate and like
He makes the comment, this is the dress I'd seen in my dreams. I don't care how into plural marriage you are. I feel like your husband be like, I've dreamed this about you, you know, in this wedding dress. Like, I think you're gonna be kind of like, yeah, grow, you know, I
don't
don't want
share.
to think about that.
Don't share that. And Christine, and even Robyn with this reveal is not happy that he shared it.
Yeah.
Granted, like I think she fucked up. I think Robyn messed up. I don't think she should have done that. But even so,
Surprisingly, I disagreed with Robyn this entire episode, and I usually am like a little more like, I give her more of a benefit of the doubt and stuff. This whole episode, though, I was like, I am disagreeing. Just
yeah,
everything she's doing, I'm just not. It's a choice I wouldn't have made myself.
yeah, it's probably overall I would say so. Like I'm trying to again trying to come up with like opposing opinions and stuff, but it's just tough. She
It
bums
was
me
hard
out.
just seeing the reaction of the wives, and then to like, I'm trying to like see it from her point of view, and I can a little bit, but I was struggling with it this episode personally.
If there's a redeeming moment, I think it's like following that after all the wives and Christine gets up. She has to like remove herself from the conversation really for a little bit, and you can tell Cody is like, that was a mistake. Like, you can tell he's like not proud of himself for that move. And we've said it before and we'll say it 100,000 times more. He doesn't think before he speaks, And like, he probably, but man, what a choice to like reveal that on the confession couch in front of the cameras for the first time. What?
Anyone else would be like, this is kind of risky to reveal, you know, I don't know how they're going to react, but Cody's like, everyone's going to think it's hilarious. They're going to be so entertained by this.
Don't reveal anything for the first time on the confession couch in front of the cameras. Don't reveal, like, I can, for, as a viewer, I can feel like maybe this is new information. But as a person in this family, I would say like that's a policy of something not to
Yeah.
do.
You'd think like if we're going to be on a reality show, we need to establish this rule that anything that gets said here, we have private discussions about it.
And veto power over. Like
Yeah.
I don't know.
At least that would be my policy, but
Maybe after this,
zero.
maybe they were too early in the show to like really think of that through too much. But he does say, "I couldn't be less of a, or I could be less of a chump and more of a man." That is his closing kind of statement, and like I see that he sees that he made a mistake, and I appreciate that. I don't think it's being a man. I think it's just being respectful of I don't think he wasn't being a man. I think he was just being kind of a dick. Like, you know what I mean? It was just
Just
a
being,
childish
again, just being more empathetic, thinking how others are going to feel with your
about
actions.
yeah. Man, what a pattern we see over and over and over again. But
And you just, like, at times, like, you just kind of want to slap him because you're like, the answer is very simple here, and you're just not getting it. Like, you're touching that hot stove over and over again.
yeah, right.
You're not getting that it's burning you.
Just take a beat and think, when I say this, how will these four women who I've known for a long time and very well react? Not
Right.
well? Zip it.
Maybe
But
I don't see it.
I don't think he goes even that far. He's just like, this is the thing I
And
want.
that's like the frustrating part of Cody. Like,
So hard to witness.
because
It's
you're
so
like,
hard.
I know you're not saying it to just be malicious. Like, you're not trying to cause pain. But the fact that you're just not understanding that your actions will cause pain, I just want to be like, shake you. Like, come on, man, wake up a little.
Yeah, it's tough. And then there's a real weird kind of like whispering between Cody and Christine, like,
Oh, it was so awkward for me to watch.
because we chose you and we know the man you are, and it's just like this weird like private moment. Yet we're all the four wives.
I felt uncomfortable. I was like, I shouldn't be watching this.
Yeah, it felt sexual. Like, I don't know. It was just so weird.
It felt too intimate for me to be watching. I was like, this is a private couple. I need to not be here.
Yeah, Christine takes this moment on the couch to kind of whisper to Cody and console him, like, because we chose you because we know the man that you are, and we chose
You need to
you.
step it up.
Yeah, and he's like, yeah, yeah. It's just like this weird.
It was weird.
It was uncomfortable to watch. Not gonna lie.
I mean, I was glad to respond to that. He kind of made it a little more lighthearted, where he's like, it's a good time for anyone else to chime in if you want me to, like, make some changes. Which, again, it made people kind of laugh, and it ended the episode slightly more lighthearted and less awkwardly than that whole whispering thing. But just kind of acknowledging, like, yes, I made mistakes and I will listen. Like, I'm going to try to improve and stuff, which I just don't think that we see as much modern day.
He doesn't get to that last step, even though he still does the thing of says doesn't think before he speaks. He's not considering his audience. Even though he still does that, the thing he does not continue to do is get to that place where he is clearly humbled.
Mm-hmm.
He is clearly realizes he made a mistake, and he's taking criticism back. He's taking in their criticism now.
Yeah.
He doesn't get there anymore, I think.
I think so. Because I was like, this is kind of rare to see him, like, really sitting with it and being like, oh, yeah.
And quickly. Like, I think he does reflect way back and say, I shouldn't have done that. Mm-hmm. But this is what we watch, like, in real time, basically. He realized his error. He was taking criticism, and he, like, acknowledged it out loud to, like, all right, give me whatever else you got. I'm taking suggestions now, or whatever. Like,
right.
Yeah, it was interesting. It was very behind. It felt very, like, an unplanned. It felt like maybe the other episodes were a little more structured by production and, like, and now we're going to do this, and we're going to ask you these questions, and we're going to kind of build the episode based on just, like, this. But this felt like almost B-roll footage, like they just had this too, and they're like, wow, we could make an episode with this, of, like, this subject of, like, the tension that Robyn and Cody's relationship puts on the other ones.
Right.
So, I don't know. I guess podcast, like, news, I guess. I don't know. Current events corner. We've been doing a lot of shout outs for Moroni Lopez Jessup, and now he follows us on Instagram. That was really exciting. If you're listening, we're excited just because you're a legitimate source that I learn a lot from on, like, the fan pages as, like, a moderator.
Again, not knowing how to, like, reach out and, like, directly ask you, but if you're listening, if you want to message us at all, if you would ever care to be a guest on the podcast, we would love to have you.
Love to have you. Well, maybe prepare some topic. I don't know. I can't think of, like, a specific topic other than just general Q&A about.
I just have so many questions that I'd just be rattling off in a really unorganized way, but I would try to make it better than that.
If you're open to that, We'd love to have you anytime. I have to give some shout outs to, if you make it this far, Pastor Jake and Michelle, once again, second shout out today.
Mhm.
They're very nice and supportive, even though I'm sure they don't love my like questioning of Mormonism and like lack of clear information about it. We'll get there. Maybe Pastor Jake, if you want to talk about Mormonism on the pod, love to have you.
That would be awesome.
Tell you that in person as well.
Yeah.
And my wonderful cousin Danny watches the show, and she said she does not listen, rewind. She listens to our show, does not watch Sisterwives, probably never will, but she enjoys,
Probably never will.
but she enjoys listening, and I appreciate it, and I appreciate you.
That's so lovely.
And pretty much the same goes for my sister Nikki. So Nikki, if you make it this far, I appreciate you for listening, even though you don't watch the show and couldn't care less about it.
Right.
The show being Sisterwives.
Still, she's supportive, so.
Do you have any shout outs?
Shout out to my mom again, who, again, talks to me all the time about the episodes. Her feedback from episode 1, I thought you'd get a kick out of this. She was like, Samantha, did you drink an entire bottle of wine while filming that? And I was like, no, Mom. I drank 3/4 of a bottle of wine.
It's not a full bottle. That's a difference.
Different.
That's like a serving and a half, right? Difference.
But I was like, to be fair, Mom, if you're listening here, I only have 1 glass of wine now per episode because I feel slightly less nervous now. Growth.
And I had like a half a cup of beer, like a half a tall boy. So if you're worried about my alcohol intake, yeah, that's all I had. Now it's a pretty simple one.
All right, that's all I got too. So until next week.
Till next week. Thanks.